Hello and welcome to our segment on how to take up ceramic tile and VCT, vinyl composite tile. Joining me, I'm Dave Bigham, the Global Director of Training for National Flooring Equipment, and joining me today is Tom Griffin.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
We're gonna go over the steps on how to take up ceramic tile, how to take up the thin set afterwards. So all the steps. We're going to talk about how to take up VCT. And we're also going to talk about how to remove the glue. There's a lot of different options. We're going to try to go over as many as we can in a short amount of time. So,
well, before we get going, please chat in questions.
Oh yeah, great.
Please feel free to ask. We're here for you guys. We want to make sure that you're learning and hearing everything that you want to hear. So, if you've got a question, put it in that chat. Please make sure that you're in the actual presentation room and not in the main lobby when you ask a question. We unfortunately had an issue with that last round and missed a question from somebody. So in stage. That's the proper terminology. So yeah, ask away. We're here for you.
Thanks for joining us, by the way. We're in Denver, Colorado. It's snowing today, but that's part of Denver in the spring, I guess. So we're going to talk about carbide tip shanks, and we're going to talk about straight shanks too. I don't know if I have a straight shank, but we could probably grab one and some. Ah, yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Straight, carbide replaceable.
Yep.
Carbide.
I actually see a lot of guys using a straight shank for ceramic tile removal, and I really find that a straight shank works better for ditching pavers. That's really what these work really well for, is pavers. If you're going to take up ceramic tile, I really suggest that you guys purchase either the older style solid 2-inch carbide shank, or the newer technology, which I really like a lot better, is the 2-inch carbide shank with replaceable tips. So you can get the kit and you can replace the tips as they dull, because they will dull on the job. The harder the material, the quicker they're going to dull. If you're taking up marble, you're going to have to sharpen these every 15 to 30 minutes. On some ceramic tile, you might go an hour. On some terracotta, you might go a little bit longer because it's softer tile. But be prepared to sharpen your carbide shanks with a carbide silica green wheel. You can put those on a handheld 4-inch grinder. You can put them on your bench grinder. What I have historically done that I really like is I take a bench grinder, I buy it, I take the rock off it, and I take it to a supply place. Granger, I don't know if I could say that, but I'm going to say it. And I take it in and go, can I have a carbide silica green wheel? And some parts of the country, they call it a green wheel because usually the color of that wheel is green. Other parts of the country won't recognize the terminology green wheel. They call them carbide silica. So over the years, I've learned to cover my bases and ask for a carbide silica green wheel, because somebody catches one side of that statement or the other and says, I've got that for you. And the reason why I take the rock that was on there off and bring it in, I get the right thickness, the right arbor hole, so I can bring it back, put it on my bench grinder, and I'm ready to go on the job site. There's also a little bit of a difference. This newer style shank, the slope for removing the ceramic tile is a little bit different than the older style, and I think this one actually works better. I'm super excited about that, and the durometer of the metal on the shank itself is actually a lot stronger than the older shanks. So there's a lot of advantages to this. If you guys haven't tried one of these, or if you're going to do a ceramic job with a rider, you should definitely grab one of these, get a couple of these on order right away.
So when we're talking about application 2, you can order replacement tips, so it comes with 3. It comes with all the set screws to hold them in. But we do sell replacement kits. We also sell a sharpening handle that you can mount these tips into when you do go to sharpen them on site.
Yep, and that's a nice tool to have if you just have one shank. If you have more than one shank, you can change the shank and use the holder as a sharpening holder. But not everybody has more than one shank all the time, so the tool's a nice option. All right, I'm going to throw these back on the table. Grab the 6-inch.
Yep.
Continuing our discussion on carbide shanks, what else does National have carbide shanks for. Our small 550 are kind of our DIY small compact machines. We actually make a carbide shank for that. And for bathroom tile and residential, light residential, this works really good. Even though you have to manually push the machine, it'll break the tile right off the floor. Sharpens the same way as larger machines with the carbide silica green wheel. I'm just going to pitch this down here. And for the 6280 Gladiator, we make a 1-inch or a 2-inch carbide shank. I like the 1-inch because if it's a really tough removal, as a walk behind, ceramic tile is always going to be harder than with a rider. So the 1-inch does a great job of ditching and breaking it up. So let's say we run across a pretty large job. Let's say it's an old mall. For all you younger kids, you can dial in later. We'll tell you what a mall is. They really did used to exist. A lot of those tiles aren't really bonded very well. So instead of having a 2-inch shank, you can step up to a 4-inch or a 6-inch shank. So I can get a lot more production. Now, if the tile's bonded really well with epoxy mortar thin set, probably not going to get away with a 4-inch or 6-inch. So you have to understand what it is you're taking up and match the right shank to the application that you're using it for.
Well, and Dave just said the magic words. So we're going to be giving away a National Flooring Equipment trucker hat, but you got to answer this question. What is the best type of machine and or tooling to use to remove epoxy reinforced mortar thin set?
And then our last segment, if you guys missed it, our marketing department gave away a small private island in the Caribbean. So I'm sorry if you guys missed that.
And you missed the Lamborghini this morning.
And that was the first one, yeah.
Yep.
So just kidding.
Tune in all day.
Thanks for joining us, you guys. Don't forget to chat questions. How is it that the two of us standing here? How do we know what we're talking about? I get asked that a lot, Dave. How do you know these? How do you know the answers to these questions? I spent my whole life on a job site with you guys, and I watched what you did. I learned where your struggles were and the best solutions for each really tough thing that you come across, because nobody needs help with an easy project. So I'm taking all of that information that I've learned from you guys over the years, and I pass it on to the next guy that might have that struggle and might want touch points on how do I take up ceramic tile? How do I get up the thin set? What's the best ways? What other tools can I use? What are some tricks to keeping some dust down? That's really what this hour is about, is teaching you guys what I've seen other people do, and then talking and kind of working that into how the national tooling and the equipment helps to get you to that finish line. Do you want to just take up some tile, or do you want to switch to 1-inch blades, or?
Why don't we take up some tile?
So that.
Yeah, so the trivia question is, what is the best machine or tooling to use to remove epoxy reinforced thin set?
So that's the hardest tile to take up, you guys. If you run into that, it's a struggle for everybody. Obviously, a ride-on machine is the best tool for that, and I won't give away the answer, but a ride-on machine is really going to help you out with that. It's the toughest job out there, short of I always see guys struggling with the marble tile in the old J.C. Penney's and the old stores. That's another real tough. It's really hard on your shanks. You got to keep sharpening your shanks on a really regular basis. So we're going to shift and stop talking for a minute. I'm going to hop on a National 8000 propane powered ride-on machine, and we're going to take up some of this tile. And once we're done with that, we're going to talk about some thin set and how we can tackle that next little step. And once we get done with ceramic, we'll switch into soft goods like VCT, the vinyl composite tile. All right?
All right. So on the 8000, we already have one of our replaceable tipped carbide shanks ready to go. And Dave's going to get her started.
Hey, Tom, can we talk a little bit about National really sets themselves apart from the competition in these applications, and there's a great reason why. Ceramic, wood floor, marble that we talked about a little bit, it's really hard to get off the floor. The competitors' machines, they only can change the pitch. So what you'll find is their machines hitting the side of the tile basically turns their machines into battering rams. But because of National's patented Shank technology and the slide plate technology, you guys are going to witness right now, I'm going to slide underneath the tile and lift it up. It's why your efficiency and your speed of your job is so much better with a National machine, especially on these tough removal jobs.
Yep.
So let's see an example of that.
Yeah, Dave, that tile didn't stand a chance. You guys could actually see as he went by, and you would notice that it would take up the majority of the tile. The pieces that were left behind weren't actually adhered to the floor. They had pulled away, they had broken. It really isn't a very efficient way of removing these tiles. We put down a lot of extra mortar on the ground when we do these, really to make sure that we're giving a good real-life demo of what our machines can do. What's up next? What would you like to
We're going to talk about... Sorry, guys. I caught my mic on one of the handles. I'm not used to being mic'd up on a job site. That's a little different for me. So now we have a big mess. I try to teach guys that, especially with ceramic tile, it's hard on your wheels. It's sharp. It's hard. So really, I try to teach guys to, if this was a little bit bigger and I had a little more camera room, a little more job site room, I try to take up tile in a big frown. That way, most of the material will stay in front of you, so the guys can clean it up. You can move it over, do another frown, so you're not driving over the tile. The smaller the pieces of the tile, the longer it takes to clean up. So, where am I with my... I'd like to talk about our... There we go. So, let's talk about cleanup. This is part of the next step of this process. Right now, imagine this is a big, huge room that we're tackling this. I'm going to put on what we call a tile box. Is it just for tile? The name's a little misleading. I'd like to change the name to bulldozer attachment. Really, you turn your scraper into a bulldozer with this tile box. You can buy this separate, and you also buy a 27-inch swivel head attachment. So imagine this is a big, huge job, and you have this big mess to clean up. You've got guys trying to push it into piles and put it into wheelbarrows or however you're moving it out. To make that go much, much faster, once you get a big section done, you can switch. I was going to just put it on the 8000.
Oh, okay.
You can switch and put it on the front of your machine. I'm going to give you guys a short example of how well this tile box works. Try not to lose my microphone this time. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Take off the 2-inch shank. We're going to put on the 27-inch swivel head attachment with the tile box. Thanks again, Tom.
Yep, no worries.
Me and Tom work together on a pretty regular basis. It's great having him around.
You are all set?
What's that? Oh. We used this earlier for some wood floor, and now we're going to use it on some tile.
So like Dave mentioned earlier, the tile box is really for cleanup. It will kind of pop smaller pieces of tile off the floor if they're still there from behind, but it really is meant as a great cleanup tool.
So you guys can imagine if this was a big, huge job, and now my guys are just cleaning up one pile that's all together, in a big, huge job, super worth every dollar you put into this. It's one of those tricks that can really speed you up. If I can take my scraper and turn it into a bulldozer, that's amazing. I love it. So what's something else that we want to talk about when it comes to removing ceramic tile? Is thin set. I have some just thin set over here, but I have some thin set here too. Normally, to take up thin set, this is a great tip, and it seems to be somewhat of a secret. What I do, and I teach guys to do, is get you some water, spray it down on the thin set. It does a couple things for you. It keeps the dust down, but also softens up this thin set considerably. It really works better if you let it sit for about 30 minutes, but we don't have 30 minutes for you guys to sit here and watch me do this. So I'm just going to kind of pretend like I've wet it. I've wet it a little bit earlier on this other section, which we'll go to in a little bit. But we're going to wet it down, just get it nice and wet, let it sit. And currently, I've got a .188 really thick blade on this machine, and we're going to use it to take up some of this thin set to see how well it works. It's going to work better, obviously, the longer it's wet, but I'm pretty sure that we can get it up anyway. So let's do some re-scrape. Unlike the shank that you want pretty much flat on the floor, with the re-scrape, we want a little more angle. Pretty much all gone. And another thing I like about the .188 blades is if there's tile that somehow got left behind, a piece that's still affixed, this blade normally will take it off. Look, now I just scraped up the VCT and the thin set. And this is just a 5000. This is one of our smaller machines with less batteries, and it's super effective. That's why I like the .188 blades. Oop, wrong side. Is because they're really thick and they'll withstand the aggressiveness of the thin set, as well as stand up to if you still hit some tile that might still be affixed to the floor.
Yep, you're good.
All right. Any questions? Are you guys typing in questions? I know there's hundreds of people online. Don't be shy. Jam in your questions. That's what we're here to do, is answer your questions. And maybe you think we're going to cover it, but don't be afraid to go ahead and send in your questions. Let's go to our next. We talked a little bit about removing the mortar under the tile. We're going to kind of switch over here and talk a little bit about the 6280 HD for thin set. So we're going to go to a quick commercial so we can move our setup. It's just real quick, you guys.
Yep.
We're going to move from here to over there, so stand by. We're coming right back. Just give me a second.
See you in a moment.
going to have to plug this in. We're going to have to plug this in.
Yep.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for the quick commercial reset up. So we're still talking about how you take up ceramic tile at the first portion of this training. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the 6280 HD Gladiator. When you guys buy this machine, it comes with 2 different angle attachments, one that's labeled hard goods and one that's labeled soft goods. So you want to put the hard goods on to put a shank on it to remove tile. But when it comes to the second step, which is to take up thin set or the mortar that's underneath it, you really want to have a little more angle on it. So I put the soft goods head back on it. And like I said earlier, I've wet some of this down. And I'm going to let it sit for about 30 minutes to soften it up. And it probably has only been wet for 10 minutes because we're going from training segment to training segment all day long. But we're going to turn this on and see what it does to this material that gets left behind after you take up ceramic tile. So we're going to plug this in.
Yep.
And while Tom's plugging this in, right now the machine is in transport mode, as you guys can see. I'm going to put the pins in it, which locks it in so we can drive it. And all I'm going to do is just tilt it away from me a little bit. And hopefully my pin doesn't close on me. Got one side in. And I prefer to tilt it toward me for the other side. Find my little slot. And I'm going to pull it out. Engage that one. And we're going to drive it backwards. I'm going to turn this on.
We do need to probably bolt that tooling in.
Oh, is it not bolted in?
I don't think it's bolted in.
Okay, let's bolt it in real quick. We're going to set up. Oh, you got one?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Appreciate you. The world is a better place with a Tom.
Hey,
What
you gotta
can I
work
say?
as a team.
All right, we're going to plug it in. Tom's got me plugged into the wall. I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to turn my speed down to start. Matter of fact, I've got it turned down so far it's barely moving. Let's turn it up a little bit. No dust, and it's just peeling this off the floor like it's not even there. It's a really good trick, you guys. No dust, and it's just ripping it right off the floor. Great way to do it. It'll still work if it's dry, but the better it's bonded, the more the water helps. So if you guys can see this, we left a little bit when it was dry, but where it's wet, it's right down to the slab. It's amazing. And so you guys know, this is hybrid training, so we've got you guys online. Thank you for joining us. We also have a live studio audience that's been coming and going all day, local here in Denver. So we'd like to welcome them, and they're also can ask questions if they'd like. So let's take up a little bit more of this with a rider, and then we're going to switch to VCT.
5,000?
Yeah, and we're going to use the same .188 blade, which is a really thick blade that stands up really well to the material that you're taking up underneath your ceramic. I'm going to back this up a little bit. Here comes Tom with our 5000 rider. All right, Tom.
All
Tom,
right.
can you make a mess for us?
Gladly.
Or unmake a mess? Nice. So once the ceramic tile's up, this is what we call rescrape. And typically you want a pretty good angle on this, so you're getting it right down to the concrete and leaving where there's very little left. Fantastic. That's just as clean as a whistle, you guys.
And as Dave was saying earlier, the 5000 is one of our mid-sized machines. So it doesn't have the biggest wheel motors, it doesn't have the biggest amp hour batteries, and yet you're able to see that it is still productive and it still does a great job removing the thin set mortar off the floor. You saw it remove tile over there. So just because it may not be the biggest machine around, it still does a great job, and it does a great job for a lot of people all over the world. Do we have any questions? Anybody online?
Another thing that works really well for the ride-ons and the walk-behinds is National's 1-inch blades. Tom, I'll get the holder.
Yep.
They work really, really well.
So these 1-inch blades are really good for rescrape, for getting glue off the floor, mortar off the floor. You do have to use them with our razor blade head, which Dave's bringing up right now. And you can tell the difference between a 1-inch blade and a razor blade. A razor blade is flexible. A 1-inch blade is spring steel that's been hardened. So
this is a standard swivel head attachment that actually comes with the machine. If you put a 1-inch blade in there, it disappears. So you really need to upgrade to a razor blade swivel head attachment, the RBH. Can you guys see how much it's sticking out now? If you guys have not used a 1-inch blade, you're missing out on. It'll take up glue, it'll take up thin set, it'll take up epoxy, it'll take up all kinds of stuff that it'll just rip it right off the floor. It's an amazing, because it's shorter, you get all of that head pressure down on a 1-inch blade. I think it's a little known fact, and if you guys have not used a 1-inch blade, not to be confused with our razor blades come in a pack of 50, and they're also great for rescraping glue, but they're kind of a consumable. You scrape a little bit with it, you throw it away. A 1-inch blade is actually a .094. It's a thick blade. It's just not, its width is just very short. It's 1 inch, so that's why it works so good.
yeah, I was actually just on a job site, and it was one of those jobs where they had to remove multiple layers of VCT, some carpet, and then below all of that was the glue. And there was some ceramic tile, some mortar, and there were some old mastics and a bunch of other just nasty stuff on the floor. And they wanted to grind all of that adhesive off and scrape it off to really get it clean. And the contractor had been using one of our 5700 ride-ons for years, 10 years. They had never heard of a 1-inch blade. And I said, look, we're talking about speeding up the job. So you want to increase the productivity of your grinder. So you can do that by using a 1-inch blade to really scrape the concrete clean, and then come in with that grinder and do your finishing step.
If you guys are doing VCT. Yes, question. It's not for ceramic tile. Oh, the question is, will the 1-inch blade take up ceramic tile, or is it just for glue? The 1-inch blade is not really designed for taking up ceramic tile. The 1-inch blade is designed for taking up the mortar underneath it, rescraping glue, taking up epoxies. It works really well for that. Really heavy line, stripe, traffic markings that are real thick and soft. The 1-inch blades work great for that. And you can actually use those on the Commander as well. We also have the 6280 500 and the 505, so we've got the razor blade head swivel attachment you can add to the Commander, and the 505, which is the standard.
And important to remember, guys, the Gladiator is our heavy-duty walk-behind scraper. That you can use to do both the rescrape as well as the original removal of ceramic tile. If you're using the 505 or the 500, That goes with the Commander, which is really just for the rescrape part of the application.
So do we want to shift to VCT? All right, we're going to switch some heads, and we're going to switch from really hard ceramic tile to how do you take up VCT? How do you get the glue up from VCT? And we've actually got a whole bunch of glue here too, so we can work on that a little bit without the mess of the VCT, just so you guys can see it visually a little bit better. So, let's, I guess let's take that blade and put in a flat blade. Do I have one? Right here. We're going to use a 1-inch razor blade swivel head attachment to scrape up some of this glue so you guys can kind of see how it works. So I'm going to take this really thick blade holder off. Put the razor blade. By the way, I painted this a bright color. I always suggest that when you buy a razor blade swivel head attachment, paint it some gosh awful color so you know that it's your razor blade head attachment when you're going in your trailer to look for it, or when you're looking to pull it off the shelf in your shop. You know for sure that there's a difference between the standard swivel head attachment that comes with your machine and the one that you bought specifically for 1-inch blades and razor blades. That's why it's this color. National didn't paint it that color, Dave did. All right, Tom, you want to scrape some glue for us?
I can scrape some glue.
All right.
My best shot.
He's going to re-scrape, so he's basically going to put a pretty good angle on it. Which way?
Sorry, guys. The mortar on the tires is making it slip. Is that better?
You're on the VCT, man. No! 1-inch blade works really well for re-scraping that glue. Now, one of the tricks, let's talk about another trick to re-scraping glue. You see what a mess this is? How do I keep it from getting on my tires, and what's the best way to keep it from making a big mess? There's a great trick I learned a long time ago, and it would be you guys, I got a bag of grout right here. And what I'm going to do with this grout is I'm just going to take it and I'm going to just sprinkle it on top of this glue, because this glue's sticky. It's sticking to my shoes. It's trying to take my shoes off. Let's say you're working in food processing or somewhere where they really don't want you spreading dust out. I recommend a trip to a big food box store and buy some flour. Flour does the same thing as this dust does, except for it's food grade. So it keeps the glue from being sticky, and it turns the glue into basically balls that you can pick up easily and clean up easily. I try to use the expression, it's kind of like Grandma making biscuits on the counter, but the biscuit dough's not sticking to the counter because she's put a little flour down. If you guys don't have grandmas, I'm sorry. All right. Tom, you want to give it a shot on some of that?
Am I so good to be going like this, Nick? Okay.
Nice. There's one more trick that you guys can write down. If you're worried about it getting on your tires, obviously I always try to teach guys to push everything in a frown so you're not running back over it. But there's another thing you can do. You can buy some Pam cooking spray and spray it all over your swivel head attachments and your blades, and it keeps the glue from sticking to them. I don't have any Pam today with me, but but I normally would spray my swivel head attachment on both sides and my deflector plate as well. It keeps the glue from sticking to it, and it works really well. And it seems kind of dumb to say, but it actually does work really well. So while we have this 1-inch blade on here, Tom, you want to spin around?
Yep.
And we have one very inexpensive 1-inch blade, and we're going to see if it'll take up the vinyl composite tile. Most guys are used to using wider, bigger blades. So have you tried a 1-inch blade? Let's see what works. Is it right if he goes the other way? Or you want to go this way?
Yep.
That's some sticky glue, you guys. Thanks for joining us. And remember, do you want to come in from over here? If you guys have questions, make sure you shoot us the questions. Tom, come down with your plate a little bit. Watch your joint.
Like that?
Go down with your slide plate. Watch your joint.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see the joint for the glue, but... There you go. Down a little bit. A little less angle. There you go. There you go.
See, I'm learning along with you guys. I have never used a 1-inch blade to remove VCT, but here we go. It's that easy.
You're killing it, man. It's awesome. One 1-inch blade. I think it's the most misunderstood blade, and one of the best things that you can have in your arsenal is a razor blade head attachment for your rider or your walk behind with a 1-inch blade. It's killing it with the glue removal, and it's killing it with the VCT. Because all of the head pressure, especially even with one of these smaller, lighter machines, is now on that little 1-inch blade. That's what makes it so effective. Nice work, man. Nice work.
Thank you.
And if you guys don't think that,
Well, the best part is it took
you're on
the
video,
adhesive
you're
right
cheating.
away.
This is stuck. You guys, this glue is, it's real deal. It's stuck. And he's just walking it right off the floor. All right, who's got questions? Anybody got questions? So we talked about putting down material to keep your glue from collecting up on your machine and on the floor. We talked about 1-inch blades. We talked about carbide blades, the different blade holders, the different swivel head attachments that you guys can pick up, the razor blade head attachments. We showed you a little bit about what the walk behinds do and what the riders do. And obviously we can put blades on the 8000 and move even faster. But I think the battery-powered machines are the most popular today, especially with guys that are doing indoor work. So we try to spend more time with the batteries than we do with the propane, but we at least got a chance to show you a little bit of both. If anybody has blade application questions, let me grab a catalog.
We also have a blade guide, and Dave's going to show you in just a moment. I think it was taken directly out of the catalog, actually.
So if you guys need some tips, obviously you're welcome to call us. But you can see this catalog online. If you want a printed copy, pick up your rotary phone and dial national. And we'll send you a paper copy. Sorry, just kidding. Sort of. The boxes tell you which blades fit on which machine. If there's not an X in the box, you shouldn't buy that blade for that machine. But that doesn't really answer all your questions. There's descriptors on what the blades do, but if you guys want to know what's the best way to tackle a job,
Call us.
Call us. I'm available 24/7, 365 days a year at any time. If you guys reach out, get my phone number. I'm always available. It doesn't matter when it is. I will help you. I'll listen to what your struggles are or what your upcoming job is. I'll work with you guys, and I'll make sure that you get it done quickly and efficiently. If you guys can move on to the next job and it's not a struggle, you're going to go home happier. You're going to go home less tired. You're going to make more money. It's a win-win. So let us be your phone a friend help. Just reach out to us at any time. Does anybody have any questions before we log off?
Well, did anyone guess the answer to our giveaway?
No.
Well,
Did
actually, I was going to say the grinder with carbide tips tooling. So that's, either using one of our ride-on scrapers, as Dave mentioned, or doing one of our grinders, especially if you're in a smaller environment with our carbide squares on there. It's the best way to remove some of that epoxy reinforced mortar.
Absolutely. And the bigger the grinder, the better. Next session is going to be tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And then, Tom, you want to talk about our ionizers real quick?
Yeah. So National sells our ionizers, our Ion 1K and our Ion 4K. A lot of people are familiar with other devices that pull dust and contaminants out of the air, but what the ionizer does is it fills the room with ions that clumps all of that dust or contaminant in the air and drives it to the ground, providing clean, safe, breathable air for everybody. Great for construction applications, great in your shop, and even better in your home. We are running a special right now on our first generation of ionizers, so if you're interested in learning more, please reach out, give us a call, let us know. And we will see you guys tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. for some concrete prep.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks. Have a great evening, guys.